Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest, absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the show. When you hear this, it will be March 1 or sometime thereafter, and if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, it is time to begin planting your herb garden. Now, our last frost date will be sometime after Easter in the Blue Ridge Mountains. A lot of times, we will have frost. We'll even have snow on Easter. We usually have snow on Easter. We'll have frost going into early May. But there are, of course, many early plants you can get started with that are frost hardy. I'm still looking at maybe a hard freeze. So yesterday I planted a few things. I started my seeds in containers so they can be outside in this nice weather right now, where it's about 70 degrees, and come inside Wednesday or Thursday night when it's going down to a hard freeze. Wherever you live, you can start your own herb garden. I'm going to give you some permaculture tips here. I'm going to give you just some general herb planting and growing tips. And, you don't have to buy everything. It really annoys me that basically the main place in town you're going to buy your herbs is the health food store. And having once worked in one of those, I know just how expensive and what the markup is on a lot of these products. I used to get an incredible employee discount and still end up spending about $100 a month. And, there's no reason to do that when you can grow most of what you need yourself. You can make your own teas, your own tinctures, your own decoctions, your own oils, herbal oils, infused oils, salves, bath soaks, you name it. Okay. And, the herb classes that I'm teaching on Rumble, they'll show you how to do all those things in like 10 minutes per. So, wherever you live, like I said, you can grow herbs. Let's say you live in a small apartment or condo or something, and your only place to grow is maybe a little balcony, a little deck, or even a window, a sunny window. Start thinking about containers, okay? Look at flower pots. Look at window boxes. Window boxes are a great use of space. Try not to make them too heavy, okay? We're not growing palm trees out there on the balcony. You don't want to be lugging in, a 20 or 30 gallon flower pot. I'm talking moderately sized. Here's what I did last year. I was off the mountain. COVID hit, and the governor put us on lockdown. Well, I wasn't about to sit around waiting, not knowing the grocery store shelves were going to be empty to get some food. So I ran down to the dollar store and I bought about 18, I guess, mop buckets, 3.5 gallon plastic mop buckets for $1 a piece. I got a bunch of cheap potting soil because the soil around there was so acidic and just pure acidic sand. Nothing would grow in it but pine trees and azaleas. And I got some quick growing radishes and such, lettuce, spinach, mustard. Um, I had a little bit larger container, a tote, plastic tote. Plastic things like you might store a bunch of sweaters in and stick it in your closet. Fill that up with soil. I got all kinds of beans and peas going in there. I started some beans and peas in each of the pots to get some nitrogen into that soil, and then I just started cycling through whatever plants I could grow that would grow out quickly for a quick harvest. Those are the very same buckets I'm using this year to start the seeds I just started yesterday. After those, well, I planted some radishes and lettuce and spinach again. After that grows out, you're talking 21 days for radishes, no more than 30. So, like in 3 weeks, I'm going to be eating radishes. I'm going to pull those out and I'm going to put some hot weather loving herbs in there, things that need sun. I live in a valley. I don't get a lot of direct sun in my yard, so I usually look for herbs that are shade tolerant. A lot of your culinary herbs, a lot of your Mediterranean herbs, like heat and sun. They really like full sun. Um, so I'm going to get some rosemary going in there, thyme, oregano, basil, um, yeah, probably another variety of mint. I always like to have a lot of mints. Big fan of mint. Lavender. Lavender's one that really does need some sun. I don't know who knows all I'm going to put in there. Parsley certainly, cilantro. We'll just see what I can come up with inexpensively that I can grow out because this is going to become my kitchen herb garden. I'm just going to focus on those culinary herbs, and I can move them around. I can put them where there's a little sun as the sun angle shifts, and then I can, if I want to, bring them into the kitchen and just sit them all around on the counters and cut my herbs right there and put them in the pot whenever I want to. This gives me frost protection. This gives me options of growing things that I wouldn't otherwise have. So think about your back deck or your back balcony or even your window boxes that way. What can I put out there? Then really take advantage of the sun. Now, one thing most people overlook is vertical space. We think about plants growing in flat soil. Well, a lot of plants climb. If you're thinking about vegetables, well, I mean, you got beans and peas that are vining. You've got tomatoes, indeterminate vining tomatoes, cucumbers, summer squash. I love crookneck, yellow crookneck, and white patty pan squash, my absolute favorites. Zucchini, eggplant, um, you can grow some smaller winter squashes depending on how heavy that trellis is. If it's a pumpkin, you can actually just, it'll hang there, but you need to take something, a little cloth, and tie it up to the trellis so it doesn't pull itself off the vine before it ripens. Anything that vines, even watermelons, cantaloupe, you can put up trellises. And what do I mean by a trellis? Okay, go get some lattice or livestock panel from the hardware store. That's the easiest thing. That's basically fencing in a grid pattern, and just put it up the side of your building. I mean, right there at that balcony, if that's what you got, the wall, that's probably going to get a lot of sun, is an excellent place to grow stuff. Put containers underneath with soil and just train your veggies right up there. But they're also vining herbs. What comes to mind immediately would be hops or passion flower, cat's claw. I can think of lots of herbs that have a vining habit, sarsaparilla. So these are things, you can take advantage of that vertical space. Window boxes are also a way to take advantage of that vertical space. If you have any kind of path or walkway, you can take that livestock panel and do an arc over it and run your vines up and over, and you actually can make a nice little shady area that you can sit out and enjoy, being outside in the hot summer and, sip your herbal tea under the shade of the nice herbs growing all around you. And if you put a nice arbor like that over a hammock and you grow some passion flower and hops up there, boy, you're going to enjoy taking a nap right there. I mean, that's going to put you out. You might want to plant a little mugwort in some pots around there, and that's going to be a spot where you go take some very relaxing and inspirational naps. I guarantee it. So, kind of think in those ways. Probably the most iconic garden design in permaculture is specifically for herbs. Bill Mollison, who's the father of permaculture, designed what he called an herb spiral. All right, let's say you have just 10 square feet. Maybe it's not even 10 square feet. Let's just use this as an easily to picture space. 10 square feet. A box square of space. This is all the yard you've got, and it's right outside your back door. Maybe you're in a little condo or something, and this is in your little courtyard. And This is where you need to grow stuff. Well, if you mound up soil or rocks or really anything you can, really as high as you want it, maybe don't go over about 3 feet high or so, and spiral from the bottom up. Now, I know this is hard to picture, just audio. I'll put a picture of this as the image for this week's podcast so you can see it. But your bed is now spiraling up this mound. The advantage of this is instead of just having 10 square feet, you have exponentially more bed space. You've increased your growing space incredibly as it spirals up and up, wide at the base, going narrower and narrower at the top. And you've created an environment where you can grow different herbs. One side of that mound is going to be facing the morning sun, most likely. One side is going to be facing the evening sun. Um, if it's shaded by a building, maybe you have shade on one side and sun on the other side. The top of it's going to get that, full noonday sun. So you can now have sun-loving herbs, like you could have lavender on one side, and then you have shade-tolerant herbs on the other side. You can put a little, say, a basin at the bottom of it. So when you water it from the top, the water goes down the spiral and collects a little pool down there. And you can put water loving herbs and vegetables even if you want to. But you could do sweet flag calamus, you could do water mint, various things that you could put right there. Lilies obviously would be very pretty. Heck, throw some frogs in there. They'll serenade you at night, help eat your mosquitoes, and when they grow big enough, you can have frog legs, which is one of my favorite meats. Uh, so you could see this herb spiral, and the other thing is like if you have a creeping thyme, or other herbs that kind of like to hang down, they can hang down the vertical aspect of the spiral as well. So you can just really just plant this thing full, and you can build it out of just about anything: rocks, old bricks, cinder blocks, bottles. I mean, anything to fill that base, and then put some like maybe stone around the edge, so you form this spiral planter, and then just fill it with good soil and get going. Um, so think kind of in that way. And one of the main principles of permaculture is what you call zones. Okay, Mollison always said that you should have your herb garden right at your back door so that you can walk out in the morning in your fuzzy slippers and clip some chives to go in your omelet and just, get no more than a little bit of dew on your slippers. Think in terms of convenience. The main reason gardens fail is neglect. They always say the successful orchard is the one in which the grower's shadow falls every day. This is a principle of right outside my back door, I want my culinary herbs. I want the herbs I'm going to just want to grab and use. That's why I'm going to bring these pots into my kitchen or just out the kitchen window when I have my culinary herbs growing. Well, a little bit beyond that, let's start thinking about more medicinal herbs. If this was a permaculture zone system, this would be our next zone. This might also be where you want to grow some nice some vegetables. You might want to get your tomatoes and your kale and whatever you want to grow going in this area as well. But one thing to think about with herbs, they don't particularly adapt well to traditional garden rows. If you think about in nature, most seed pods form and basically drop the seeds right there by the mother plant. Now, some may be carried by birds. Some may actually be required to be carried by birds to germinate. I'll get into that in just a second. But herbs tend to like to grow in clumps. So one thing that makes this convenient for us is to think how easily they can be incorporated into the landscape. All right, let's say you made the biggest mistake of your life. You know what that mistake is? No, it's not taking out a college loan, like I said last week. It's joining a property owners association. It's living in a neighborhood or a development with POAs, constant fees, and tin pot dictators telling you what you can and cannot do on your own property. If you made that mistake, I feel sorry for you. It's a bad idea. Jack Spirko does the survival podcast, and he said on one of his first shows years ago, He said the difference between a home and a homestead. You pay for a home. A homestead supports you. Well, if you've been a property owner association that says you can't have a garden and grow vegetables, and you have to pay them POA fees all the time, your homestead's going to have a very hard time supporting you unless you learn to do this in a more stealth way. So, herbs look wonderful in landscapes. This is one of the great benefits of that clumping nature. Most herbs have nice, colorful flowers or a unique foliage, a leaf that's an interesting shade or an interesting shape. And if you start thinking about levels and textures, you can put these herbs in your landscape and everyone will just assume they're ornamental. Think about Vitex. Vitex is a really good herb for a lot of male menstrual issues and such as that. It's also called chasteberry because it used to be that monks would take the seeds to decrease their libido. It is one of the most commonly used landscaping plants that I've ever seen. You've probably seen these bushes that have these, long pointed leaves and um, beautiful blue flowers. I mean, they almost look like a Russian sage, but they're bush. You can plant Vitex in your yard, no problem. No one's ever going to think a thing of it. That's a nice ornamental bush. So is Oregon grape, barberry, hawthorn, which is such an incredible herb for cardiac health. Um, what else can I think of? Viburnum. Viburnum is cramp bark. Again, great for menstrual problems, but also for any muscle cramping. These are bushes you could have in your landscape. That's one level. There are trees you could put in your landscape. Elderberry. Elderberry is wonderful for viruses and colds. It's a nice low growing tree. You could intersperse that with, say, dogwood. Dogwood, you can make a decoction of the bark. It's great for diarrhea. It's a good astringent. Uh, just those trees and bushes, and I could go on. I mean, and there are probably some trees in your yard already that you can be using. I mean, your oaks, your magnolias, pine trees. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. You could do nice little cherry trees. In about a month, the cherries are going to be blossoming, and your yard would be the hit of the neighborhood. And cherry bark is an excellent herb for coughing and colds. It's just cherry bark. So, think along those lines, but those are two layers. You've got your bushes there and you've got your trees, and maybe you did some of those arbors like I was talking about, and you're using your vertical space. Passion flower is one of the most gorgeous flowers you will ever see. I mean, it is striking. And nobody's going to have a problem with that growing in your yard. And then we come down, we've got sort of like a lower shrubby area where, we can put things that grow a little taller. What's one of the most beautiful plants you can see in a landscape? Echinacea. Echinacea has such a long history. I mean, it's what they used to call snake oil. Snake oil actually worked. Snake oil worked for snake bites and the bites of certain spiders like the brown recluse and hobo spider. These are snakes and spiders that inject a venom that necrotizes or starts to kill and break down the tissue. Can be one of the worst things. I mean, just this little spider bite that you may not even feel, and next thing you know, you have this like big rotting hole in your arm. It can be a terrible thing. That's one reason it's really good to have echinacea tincture on hand. Echinacea increases hyaluronic acid. That's basically the mortar between the cells. I think that's how Doc Jones described it. The mortar between the cells. That holds us together. That necrotizing venom breaks down hyaluronic acid. So by taking the echinacea, you're putting more hyaluronic acid in and you're protecting the hyaluronic acid you have. Combined with a poultice, with another plant that might look really nice in your landscape, prickly pear cactus, for instance, you can really do a lot for snake bites, spider bites, anything that uh, and not to mention just cuts and infections. I mean, it's really going to help with that. And echinacea builds the immune system. It's really good to help prevent colds and help you get over a cold, recover from things. Echinacea, purple coneflower. You could also have, was it black-eyed Susan, Rebecca, same family. Just looks beautiful. And I mean, you're going to have these just incredible flowers growing, oh, maybe 3 feet tall. And then under that, you can start putting in, mints and, wormwood would be a nice one. I mean, you can think of all these, you could just put them in the yard. How about, you know, lemon balm? Um, oh, hey, here's another one, beauty bush. Beauty bush and lemon balm are both excellent mosquito deterrents. So you could have that aspect as well as herbs. Now, people ask, well, what about pests? What about chemicals? All right, if you're growing something to put in your body, whether it's herbs or food, I do not believe in soaking them down with poisonous chemicals. I mean, it's kind of is it a little ironic that since we started using all the Roundup and chemical, herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, suddenly everybody seems to have a gluten intolerance or a lactose intolerance or a food allergy to peanuts or strawberries? I don't think so. Something that's going to kill the, there's fungicide, an herbicide, a pesticide, something that's going to kill a pest plant to keep the pest or the fungus or the other plants from choking out this plant, sprayed down with all this nasty stuff. When you eat it, it's probably going to disrupt your own gut health. And if you disrupt the gut microbiome, you've disrupted your entire immune system, and it can cause all kinds of autoimmune conditions, mental health issues, memory problems. I mean, one of the best things you can do is focus on your gut health by eating good, healthy foods that aren't drenched in chemicals, getting some good fermented foods for the probiotics, and getting enough sleep. And a little bit of exercise, and your gut will stay nice and healthy, and that's half your immune system. Some people say it's more like 80% of your immune system. So, really important. But so what do you do? I mean, we got deer everywhere coming in the yard, going to eat everything, right? You got rabbits, you got moles, you got all kinds of bugs. Well, first of all, the biggest problem when people think of a conventional garden is planting everything in rows by itself. If you're a bug and you came up there and you're a cutworm or you're an aphid, and boy, there's just this one vegetable growing there that you just love. And it's all growing in a convenient little row all together, or just this one thing. You're calling your friends and you're going to wipe it out overnight. And nature never does that. Nature scatters things around. Nature interplants. So growing beside this one thing that bug may like is something else that bug may absolutely hate. And bugs, the way their eyes work, see colors in like blocks basically, and the way their sense of smell works, they can really zero in if there's a whole lot of that one thing together. So by interplanting, we can really, really deter a lot of those pest problems. And there are books on this, like Louise Friotti's Roses Love Garlic, I think is the name of it. Companion planting, you can really get big into that. Some people say it's the best thing ever. Some people say it doesn't work very well for them. But basically, if you're planting with your flowers and vegetables, a lot of herbs that are strong, high in volatile oils, strongly scented, you're going to help deter a lot of these critters. I mean, all those culinary herbs I mentioned, anything in the mint family, your sages, um, anything in the Artemisia family, wormwoods. I'm getting a little cross over there, but anyway, um, wormwood, mugwort, southernwood. Some people say that rabbits will not cross a barrier of wormwood. I don't know if they will or not. I've heard that deer don't like to cross a barrier of lemongrass. I think it was lemongrass. Another person would probably tell you that's the one thing the deer love in my yard. They eat all my sage, they eat all my lemongrass. I think a lot of it depends on your soil. Your soil conditions are going to really dictate the strength of those volatile oils that may burn an animal's nose, or the bitterness of the wormwood that may just make them think it's poisonous and they try to stay away. So you can have to experiment with that a little bit, but again, like the lemongrass and such that deters mosquitoes, it's also good to deter a lot of other insects. And if you have a lot of nice flowers growing in your yard, especially if they're nice herb flowers, you're going to attract a lot of the insects that eat other insects. You're also going to attract a lot of birds. And the birds, they'll eat a lot of those insects too, and they'll also help fertilize your garden at the same time. So speaking of fertilization, mulch. I mean, make compost. Compost is just wonderful. You know, if you have any vegetation going out of your kitchen as scraps and you don't have chickens to eat it, take it and mix it with leaves and lawn clippings and make wonderful compost. I can give you some resources, tell you how to do that. You know, my friend Matt Powers, he has a wonderful course on beginning gardening and making compost. I'll provide a link to that in the show notes. How about that? You know, I can recommend some books if you don't know how to do it. But just get in touch with me and ask. Compost is not rocket science, neither is compost tea, where you can actually take that compost and mix with water and have a liquid fertilizer that you're using. So no chemical fertilizers, no chemical pesticides. We don't need herbicides because we're using mulch and compost to suppress weeds, but we're also interplanting. Okay, well, what about certain herbs that tend to take over? I mean, everybody will tell you how men will just take over your garden. Men will just take over everything, right? Some people say that about comfrey, others about horseradish, and yeah, or milk thistle. Yeah, these can get out of hand. They can spread. Generally speaking, though, you can control that with non-chemical means without any worry. The only thing, you know, that can really just run rampant is bamboo. And bamboo is a wonderful plant. It has all kinds of uses, but it is pretty hard in an urban landscape to use a running bamboo. By using, well, for instance, I've got a wonderful patch of spearmint in my backyard. It's in a shady spot. It's in a wet spot. It has never spread. It never goes anywhere. It's just not in an area where it's going to run rampant. I actually need to move some into a sunnier spot so I can get more of it because I'm lucky if I get about 12 sprigs a year off this little patch of mint. When it comes to like comfrey, the reason comfrey spreads so is because if you dig up comfrey, each little piece of the root will reproduce and become a new plant. So people really mess up when they dig up comfrey. Now, some people say you can use the Russian comfrey. You know, I don't think it matters a whole lot. Just don't try to dig it up. You're going to put it somewhere, leave it there, harvest as needed, mow around frequently, and mulch around frequently. Starve any new plants of sunshine, you know, and you got no problem. I guess that about covers everything. Let me give you a couple of resources here. All right, first of all, there's an older book, I guess I should say, the Rodale Herb Book. This is really good. It's the Rodale Herb Book: How to Use, Grow, and Buy Nature's Miracle Plants. One of my favorite herb books. I think it was published about 1970. It's one of those you can pick up a used copy for less than $5. 1974 by Rodale Press. Every herb in here, and I think it covers about 300 herbs, it tells you how to grow. It tells you what growing conditions they like. It's wonderful. I mean, I'm just flipping through. Here's bee balm. Here's lady's bed straw, to basil. You know, I mean, obviously here's anise. Obviously, I'm in the A's and B's right now. Angelica. It tells you everything you really need to know about how to grow those herbs. Another one that I think is fantastic is Growing 101 Herbs That Heal. This is by Tammy Hartung. This book by Story Publishing. It's a newer book, probably yeah, around the year 2000. It has wonderful ideas for garden design. It has ideas for companion planting. It tells you everything about what the plant needs as far as full sun, partial sun, shade, the temperatures it should be grown in, the soil types, what kind of soil it likes. Really some nice garden designs. And what's really good about this, and it's really the one tricky thing about growing herbs, is stratification. Now, some seeds are just ready to go. Some seeds actually require overwintering. You know, they're meant to drop in the fall, stay in frozen ground, and they won't germinate unless they do go down to those cold temperatures. So she tells you if you need to cold stratify your seeds, which simply means put them in the refrigerator for a month. No big deal. Some seeds need to be stratified or really scarified, I guess you would say. by being eaten by an animal or a bird, being experiencing the digestive enzymes that break down the outer shell. She tells you that and how you can do that yourself using peroxide, for instance. Which seeds need to be soaked before planting. And she really focuses on the medicinal. She's got betony, plantain. Look, if you can't grow plantain, give it up. You can't grow anything. Now, nettles, for instance, nettles, you don't plant nettle seeds so much as you do just kind of scatter them on the ground because they actually need sunlight to germinate them. So, and they also need to be cold stratified. So these are two good books to get, and you're not going to spend very much on either one of them. Totally recommend them, and you can definitely get in touch with me. So that covers everything from a window box garden to a balcony to a courtyard to a suburban yard. Anything beyond that, you're getting more into farming, and it's going to get a whole lot more complicated. So, what I would like for you to do this week is think of a list of herbs that you would like to have, things you like to cook with, and things that you would use regularly for your common health complaints. Do a little look up on them, see what they look like, and think about, well, where could I put that in the yard? If you know, don't worry about your sun angle right now because it's getting ready to change as the seasons change, but you can kind of look around your yard and see which spots are sunnier and which spots are shadier. And think about what's near the water hose or where you wouldn't mind taking out a watering can. Make it convenient. Think about what you might be able to put beside the road that's nice and ornamental and what you might want to kind of keep tucked back that's not so ornamental. And just, make a little list, write down some of the characteristics, and start dreaming of spring. Look, it is definitely not too soon to order those seeds. I'm already hearing that some seed companies are beginning to limit orders. Last year, seeds became so hard to find. So start looking for those seeds now. All right, y'all, I will see you next week, and I'll have the link to Matt's class in the show notes and a picture of the herb garden. See you later. The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.